So you're probably saying, Matt, didn't we already do an gnocchi video? Well, kind of. Traditionally, gnocchi is made from potatoes. The recipe we did a few months ago was with ricotta cheese. Although an amazing alternative, I wanted to revisit this dumpling one more time. There's tons of gnocchi videos out there, but not many using sweet potatoes instead of regular potatoes, let alone purple sweet potatoes. So this is going to be a fun one. Start by stabbing or pricking the potatoes with a fork. Be careful not to stab yourself while doing so. This will help the taters cook evenly and release steam and moisture as they bake. Bake these guys at 400 degrees for about an hour. Let them cool before peeling. It will save you from burning your hands as well as making peeling later a lot easier. Once peeled, begin to mash the potatoes. You can pass this through a strainer or a fine mesh sieve if you'd like for a more finer pulp, but I do enjoy the chew and bite by having the whole potato in the gnocchi rather than super smoothing it out. Either way, it really doesn't matter. Work it on a table or in a mixer until most visible lumps are smoothed out, but again, you don't have to go too crazy. To this, we're going to add a good pinch of salt, 1 egg beaten, and 1 1/4 cup of flour. Begin to mix by hand until the dough starts to come together. You may need some extra flour, maybe another 1/4 cup or so, and that's okay. The sugar content and moisture in sweet potatoes vary from tater to tater, so once this thing is roasted, there's no precise way of knowing exactly how much flour you're going to need. After a few times running through this recipe, though, you'll quickly get the hang of it, I'm sure. Wrap this in plastic wrap and let it rest on the counter for about 10 to 15 minutes to allow the gluten to relax a bit. Meanwhile, it's a perfect time to work on our purple gnocchi. Follow the same steps as we just did and recipe as before. On a well-floured surface, we can begin rolling out our pasta. Cut a small portion of dough to work with and keep the rest under a dish towel or back in the plastic wrap. We don't want our dough to dry out too much. Begin by rolling out a snake using your fingers and your palms. The key is to predominantly use the crease in your hands where your fingers meet your palm and rock your hands back and forth with the dough gently floating beneath it. This will ensure a smooth rope or log as you're being careful not to dig your fingers in while rolling, which will only indent and make for a bumpy, lumpy gnocchi. No bueno. When you have the desired thickness you'd like, carefully portion the gnocchi using a bench knife or a dull knife. Lightly coat with flour and then you can move on to the next one. Now you may remember from our last gnocchi video that there's quite a few shapes we can do here. The classic would be taking your piece of dough and rolling it over your thumb on an gnocchi board to give these classic ridges for holding sauce. If you don't have a gnocchi board, which they're pretty cheap and you can purchase off Amazon, you can use the prongs of a fork instead. The other option, which is also super adorable, is to make a small dimple in your square. This also leaves an opportunity for catching or holding sauce, but obviously a little less efficient in that case. I chose the cute dimple as I feel the contrast of both colors will appear as if less is going on and you can appreciate these vibrant colors a little bit more in the subtle texture of our pasta. Repeat these same steps and recipe for the purple pasta as I go a bit more into the tips and tricks. You can roll all the logs out first and keep them reserved under a towel if you'd like. That way you can focus and save time on rolling all at once and cutting all at once instead of stopping and repeating and picking the knife back up over and over again. This is actually going to save you a bunch of time in the long run. Now this pasta can be frozen and kept in your freezer for months, or it can be kept in the fridge for about 48 hours at this stage before it starts to get real weird on you. To cook, bring a pot of water up to a boil and generously season with some sea salt. Drop it down to just a strong simmer and then drop your pasta in. I don't like cooking fresh pasta in boiling water. I don't know why, but it just seems a bit aggressive to me. I like the chew and bite of the pasta when it takes just a little longer to cook without overcooking. So a high simmer is usually how I like to do this. Do this in stages, making sure not to overcrowd your pot with all of your pasta because all of that starchy water will make all of the pasta super gummy and gross and you won't want to eat it. The pasta is done when they all begin to float to the surface. This should take only about 90 to 120 seconds or so. If your sauce is ready at this time, you can drop your pasta straight in and finish cooking it. But since we're doing a lot here and I'm cooking in batches, I'm going to shock these little guys in an ice water bath to stop them from overcooking while allowing me to still hold them at the perfect consistency. Also, blanching your pasta like this is going to make these colors really pop, so don't skip it. In a medium saute pan, melt 1 to 2 tablespoons of butter, then add about a cup of cream and mix that until just combined and there isn't too many butter streaks left in your pan. Allow this to simmer on medium-low heat for about a good 10 minutes or so. We want to really reduce this cream a bit and allow it to thicken. Keep an eye on it though to ensure that it doesn't bubble over on you, and if it starts to rise too much and scare you, just give it a nice little stir or move the pan around a bit to reset it, and all of that will recede. It should look like a nice thick sauce, but not too thick where it's going to clump up your pasta. We still want it smooth. So if you think you went a little too far, add some pasta water, like a tablespoon at a time or so, and bring it back up until it re-emulsifies to the consistency that you'd like. Next, add about a cup of good gorgonzola cheese. I can't stress this enough. Good gorgonzola cheese. You don't want this to taste like a deli salad. You can adjust this according to your taste, but move it around so all the cheese is coated, then turn the heat off and let the cheese sit there for about 30 seconds, slowly starting to break down and melt. Make sure the heat is off, as it will melt too quickly and break your sauce due to the high fat content not emulsified evenly. We should have a perfectly smooth, creamy, luscious sauce right now. Now it's time to add back in the pasta. Remember, the pasta is already cooked. We just want to gently toss them and move them around using the leftover heat from the sauce to heat through our pasta. Note, if you fridged your pasta after blanching, allow the pasta to temper for 15 minutes at room temperature before adding it. Adding super cold pasta to this warm cream sauce will also break the sauce. If this happens, use the same method of adding a little pasta water at a time to bring it back together. Now, look at this super smooth, luscious cream sauce. Absolutely beautiful. There was a few different ideas when it came to the sauce for this. Given we have sweet potatoes, which will already be pronounced on their own, I wanted to do something special and rich. I landed on this classic gorgonzola cream sauce, which is just super easy to make, and as you can probably tell, is almost like an Alfredo in a sense. We're going to plate this up in our favorite Connor McGinn bowl. Shout out to Connor. Finish strong with some fresh grated pecorino romano cheese, some fresh chopped chives, cracked black pepper, and some crushed toasted walnuts for some extra texture. We basically knocked this out of the park. Are you kidding me? Look at this. You make this for anybody, maybe not on a hot summer day, but on a rainy summer day, this is going to hit the spot. It's going to warm you up. It's going to make you feel all sorts of feelings, and you're not going to stop thinking about this dish for days to come. I promise you.